Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're getting into an idea that might, really shift how you think about your own potential. Yeah, we're exploring mindsets, and we're using some key bits from Carol Dweck's book, Mindset. Changing the way you think to fulfill your potential. Right, and our goal here using these specific excerpts is to unpack this core idea she talks about, this distinction between thinking your qualities are fixed, like set in stone, or thinking they can actually be developed, and why that difference matters so much. We're really gonna dig into that based on the material we have. Exactly, it's about looking under the hood, what drives how we face challenges. So as we go through this, maybe think about yourself. How do you react when things get tough or when you have a chance to learn something new? What does that gut reaction maybe tell you about how you view your own abilities? Okay, let's dive in then. Dweck's main point from these excerpts is that we generally look at our ability as our qualities through one of two main lenses: a fixed mindset or a growth mindset. It's like a fundamental operating system for how you see yourself and what you think you're capable of. And she has these questions right in the source material to help us figure out which lens we might be looking through. Questions about, say, intelligence. Yeah, exactly. She puts forward statements like, your intelligence is something very basic about you that you can't change very much. Or, you can learn new things, but you can't really change how intelligent you are, right? And if you find yourself nodding along thinking, yeah, that sounds about right, the source suggests you're probably leaning towards a fixed mindset, at least about intelligence. The belief that your basic brain power is, well, pretty much fixed. You've got what you've got. Moonhin. It's a powerful idea, and she doesn't stop at intelligence, does she? She implies the same thinking too, like personality. Character. Yeah, the source has similar statements for that, like, you are a certain kind of person and there is not much that can be done to really change that. Or, you could do things differently, but the important parts of who you are can't really be changed. So again, if that resonates strongly, it points towards a fixed view, this time about your core self, who you fundamentally are. So, putting together the fixed mindset based on these source questions anyway, is this core belief that your basic abilities, your personality, it's all largely set, static. Okay, so that's one side. What about the other? The growth mindset. Well, you flip that completely. The source gives us statements like, no matter how much intelligence you have, you can always change it quite a bit, or even stronger, you can always substantially change how intelligent you are. See the difference? It feels different, doesn't it? Yeah, it feels less constrained, like there's possibility there that the idea your intelligence isn't just some fixed number. Exactly, it opens things up. And that same applies to your personality. The growth mindset statements in the source are things like, no matter what kind of person you are, you can always change substantially. And you can always change basic things about the kind of person you are. So the core belief here is totally different. It's that these important qualities, these abilities, they aren't just given. They're things you can cultivate, right? You build them through effort, through learning, through trying things. And, crucially, the source points out, this isn't just theoretical stuff like intelligence. It applies to concrete skills too. Things like, artistic talent, sports ability, even business skill. Okay, so you could have a fixed mindset about, say, drawing. I just can't draw, I wasn't born with it. Or a growth mindset. Okay, I'm not good now, but if I practice, learn techniques, maybe I can get better. Makes sense. And the source also mentions that people aren't always purely one or the other. You might be a mix. Hooray, like it maybe you feel you can really grow your professional skills, but you think your personality is pretty much set. Exactly. Or you might have a growth mindset about learning history, but a fixed one about learning, say, physics. It can vary. Okay, so we have these two underlying beliefs. How do they actually play out? Like, how does someone with a primarily fixed mindset act? The source gives some descriptions. Yeah, it says they're often always trying to prove themselves okay, and they could be super sensitive about being wrong or making mistakes. Ooh, super sensitive about mistakes. That sounds tough. The source then asks this really interesting question, doesn't it? It does. Did you ever wonder why they were this way? Are you this way? And that connects right back to the belief, right? If you think your ability is fixed, well, yeah, every single task, every challenge, it's not just about doing the task, it becomes a test, a measure of that fixed ability you supposedly have. So a mistake isn't just, oops, I messed up. No, it feels like proof. Proof that your fundamental ability, the thing you can't change, isn't good enough. So of course you'd be sensitive. Your whole sense of worth might feel like it's on the line with every performance. Wow, that sounds exhausting, constantly needing to validate yourself. It can be. Now contrast that with someone operating more from a growth mindset. How do they approach things? Well, the source says they understand qualities can be cultivated. They believe in development. So obstacles, they're not seen as like final judgments. They're part of the process. They tackle challenges differently. And this is key. They actively do things to stretch themselves. Stretch themselves. I like that phrasing. Because if you believe growth is possible, then challenges aren't threats to your ego. They're opportunities. They're the way you grow. You seek them out, or at least you don't shy away from them in the same way. It changes the whole dynamic completely. And the source has another great question tied to this. What are some ways you might like to change or stretch yourself? That question itself feels very growth-oriented, doesn't it? It seems change and stretching are desirable, possible. Exactly. It focuses on effort, learning, development, not just proving what's already there. Okay, to really nail this difference, the source gives this great scenario. Imagine you're in a language class. Total beginner, right? And the instructor calls on you. Puts you on the spot with questioned. You might not know the answers. Now, try to put yourself in a fixed mindset in that moment. What does that feel like? You're standing there. Yeah, everyone's looking. The source describes it really well. You feel your abilities on the line. You feel the instructor evaluating you, judging you. Your ego starts to bristle and waver. Oof. Yeah, you can almost feel that tension, that anxiety. Because messing up feels like failing a test of your inherent language talent. Precisely. Now, take a breath. Imagine the exact same situation, same classroom, same question. But now, try putting yourself in a growth mindset, or changes. The source puts it so simply. You're a novice, that's why you're here. Whoa, okay, yeah, the feeling just shifts, yeah, complete like that little switch in perspective is huge. In the growth mindset, being a beginner isn't something to hide or be ashamed of. It's the whole point. Hispus and not know things, that's why you're in the class. Exactly, you're there to learn. The instructor isn't judging some fixed talent. They're helping you develop. The tension eases, the focus becomes the learning process itself, not just nailing the answer right now. That scenario really does make it clear how much that underlying belief changes the actual experience of learning or facing a challenge. It's not just an abstract idea. It changes how things feel, how you react, what you do next. So the big takeaway here is really about self-awareness, isn't it? Yeah, are you generally seeing it? Your abilities, your qualities as these fixed things you need to constantly prove and defend? Or do you see them more as things you could actively work on, cultivate, grow over time? And think about this in your everyday life, not just big learning projects. That tricky email you have to write, that difficult chat you need to have, that task at work you've never done. It was the little voice inside saying, is it, uh-oh, don't screw this up, what if I look stupid? That's leaning facts. Or is it more like, okay, this is new, how can I approach this, what could I learn here? That's leaning growth. Just understanding this distinction can give you a new way to look at your own responses. And maybe, just maybe, choose a different path. when you hit a bump in the road. So maybe something to reflect on after this deep dive is that question the source posed. Right. What are some ways you might like to change or stretch yourself? Thinking about that, but specifically you through this lens of fixed versus growth, yeah, it might just spark some new ideas or possibilities for you.